Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Mordy and Glory video. Today we are going to be doing a unit review of the Cartographica Rogue Trader and Voidsmen arm squads, and we'll be taking a look at how you can use them in your Warhammer armies. So without further ado, let's dive straight into today's video. And the first unit we're going to take a look at is that Rogue Trader. Now the Rogue Trader does have a movement of 6, weapon skill and ballistic skill of 3+, a strength and toughness of 3, 4 wounds, attacks 3, leadership 9 and a 4+ save. In addition to this, there are 3 other optional members of the squad that you can take. One of them is a Death Cult Executioner, the other is Electro Maester, and the last one is a Rejuvenant Adept. The Death Cult Executioner has a movement of 6, a weapon skill of 2+, a ballistic skill of 4+, strength 3, toughness 3, only 2 wounds but 5 attacks, leadership 7 and a 5+ save. The Electro Maester has a movement of 6, a weapon skill of 4+, a ballistic skill of 3+, strength 3, toughness 3, 2 wounds, only 1 attack, leadership 7 and a 5+ save. And the Rejuvenant Adept has a movement of 6 inches, weapon skill and ballistic skill of 4+, that is the worst in the whole squad, a strength of 3, a toughness of 3, only 2 wounds, only 1 attack, leadership 7 and a 5+ save. Now let's take a look at the war gear options that each one of these models comes with. The Rogue Trader is equipped with a household pistol and a monomolecular cane rapier. The household pistol is actually surprisingly punchy for a pistol. Normally you expect something like a bolt pistol profile, but this thing has actually got a strength of 5, an AP of 3 and a damage of 2. Now that is a very impressive stat line for a sidearm, but what you've got to remember is it is only pistol 1, which means it does only have 1 shot. So whilst it is a good shot, you've got to take into account that 1-shot weapons in 40k aren't considered the best option, but it's a decent pistol. The monomolecular cane rapier is a very interesting piece of war kit. It's strength +1, which is actually really important. Having only a strength of 3 can make it kind of difficult to Barney in combat, but having a +1 strength bumps you up to strength 4, which means you can actually reliably start beating on regular Space Marines, and then anything below that you're going to be wounding on 3. So that +1 strength is actually a big deal for strength 3 models. Having the AP -2 is pretty good as well. It means that you can take that into Armor of Contempt enemies and you'll do alright. The 1 damage is a little bit of a shame, but it's not the end of the world. It's fine when you've got the extra strength and the extra AP. And the best part about this weapon is each time the bearer fights with it, it makes 3 additional attacks. That means that the Rogue Trader doesn't have 3 attacks base, it actually has 6, and that's a pretty big deal. The Death Cult Executioner has got some pretty spicy war gear as well. It comes with a Dart Mask and a Death Cult Power Blade. Now the Dart Mask is pretty decent as a sidearm. It's similar to the Household Pistol in that it's got okay stats, but the fact it only fires 1 shot is a pretty big drawback. But its stats are that it's got a 12-inch range, it's pistol 1, it's only strength 2, but we'll get back to that in a second. It's got AP -2 and it's damage 1. The thing is, it has an ability where each time an attack is made with this weapon against a unit, excluding vehicle or titanic units, an unmodified wound roll of a 2+ is always successful. Basically guys, you don't need to worry too much about that strength, because this thing realistically is going to be wounding your opponents on a 2+. But the main draw for this model is that Death Cult Power Blade. It is melee range, it is a strength of +1. Again, we've talked about how important it is getting into that strength 4 bracket with strength 3 infantry, so that's really good. It's AP -3, which is fantastic for cutting through enemy armor, even Armor of Contempt, and it does only do 1 damage. It has no further abilities, but don't forget the Death Cult Executioner has 5 attacks base. That means between the Cartographica Rogue Trader and the Death Cult Executioner, you've got a little 2-man squad here that puts out 11 attacks, and the Death Cult Executioner hits on a 2+, and the Rogue Trader hits on a 3+, which means a lot of those attacks are really going to land. Now the Electro Maester does have an interesting weapon. He has a voltaic pistol. Now it's only 1 shot, it has a 12-inch range, it's strength 5, it's AP dash, but it is damage 2, but each time attack is made with this weapon, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores 2 additional hits. To be honest, I think this is probably one of the weaker weapons that you get in this squad. Overall, it's nice to have a little bit of a voltaic weapon in there, but only the 1 shot means that its ability is rarely going to go off, and with the distinct lack of AP, really, it's obvious to me that the Electro Maester and the Rejuvenant Adept, who's only armed with a las pistol, might as well get his war gear out of the way, they're really there as support characters, they're not there as damage dealers. Now speaking of support characters, it's probably a good time to take a look at the abilities that this whole squad gets. Now the first one is Captain on Deck. In your command phase, select 1 friendly Navis Imperialis core unit with a 9-inch of this unit's Cartographica Rogue Trader model until the start of your next command phase. Each time a model in that unit makes an attack, add 1 to that attack's hit roll. Now, having the ability to hand out a +1 to hit for free is pretty good, I'm not going to lie. But you can only do it on one squad for each rogue trader that you have. Now, a lot of people think, oh, well, you could put that on the Voidsmen at Arms. They are Navis Imperialis, they are core. But when you look at the Voidsmen at Arms, we'll get into those a little bit more detail later on, they only come with things like las guns, and there's one semi-decent weapon in there with the Voidsmen's rotator cannon. But to be honest, I wouldn't think that giving a +1 to hit to a bunch of las guns is really a big deal. Where you want to be looking at this, and we'll be covering this in another video, is at the Navy breaches, because they are also Navis Imperialis and they are a core unit, and those guys really do pack quite a bit of firepower. You can give them special weapons and they all get some pretty hefty shotguns as well. The next ability is Field Generators and Uncanny Reflexes, and this unit's Rogue Trader model has a 4+ invulnerable save, and other models in this unit have a 5+ invulnerable save. Now, what's really important to remember here is that you don't need that Lecto Maester or Rejuvenant Adept to get that ability. If you just take the Rogue Trader and the Death Court Executioner, you have those invulnerable saves. I think that's a really important point to note, because I personally think the Lecto Maester and the Rejuvenant Adept are a little bit of a optional extra, whereas I think that the Death Court Executioner and the Rogue Trader are really, really good. And if you're thinking of taking this squad, those are the two models that I'd put together. So it's great that you can get those invulnerable saves without having to rely upon the other support characters. Now, speaking of the other support characters, you've got the Healing Serum. While this unit includes a Rejuvenant Adept model, each time a model in this unit would lose a wound, roll a d6 on a 5+, that wound is not lost. Having a 5+ feel no pain is okay, but the problem is that you've got a lot of 2 wound models here, and quite frankly, there's a lot of damage to flying around 40k these days. It's not bad, but for me, I feel like the Rejuvenant Adept, if you do take him, he's probably going to be the first one to go anyway, and that means you're going to lose the Healing Serum. So overall, I'm not a big fan of the Rejuvenant Adept or the 5+ Feel No Pain. And speaking of abilities that I don't think are that great, you've got the Motive Force Evocation. While this unit includes a Electro Maester model, each time a model in this unit makes attack on an unmodified rune roll of a 6, improves the armor penetration characteristic of that attack by 1. That's okay, but again, the main people that are going to be benefiting from that is the Rogue Trader and the Executioner. The Rogue Trader should get that at least once, but that's 1 extra attack with 1 extra AP. It's not a big deal, and it's a wound roll, so it's not even really guaranteed that you're going to get it 1 for the Executioner and 1 for the Rogue Trader. Realistically, you're going to get between the two of them 1 attack that's going to have an extra AP. It's just not really worth it. So for me, I definitely think that the Lecto Maester and the Rejuvenant Adept are kind of optional extras. If you want to take a couple of extra guys that you can take some extra wounds in the squad, go for it. But otherwise, I think realistically, the main damage that you're going to get from this squad is going to be from the Rogue Trader and the Death Court Executioner, and they're the ones that I think really are mandatory if you're taking this squad. And the last ability, it sounds really cool, but it's actually a major drawback. It's Master and Commander. If your army is Battleforged, you can include a maximum of 1 Cartographica Rogue Trader model in each attachment in your army, and this model cannot be taken in a compulsory battlefield role slot. That's a real shame, because this is an HQ choice, and in theory, what you could have done is taken Cartographica Rogue Traders and had them lead an army of Voidsmen at Arms and Navy breaches. But that can't be the case. You cannot take this model in a compulsory battlefield role slot. It's got to be done like the Agent of the Imperium. That's a real shame, and I think GW's really missed a trick there. I think a lot of people were very excited to be able to run around with a pure Navy army, and now they just can't do that. So that's a real shame, and I really hope that GW basically just gets rid of that ability on that datasheet, because it's just a big drawback and takes away from a lot of the fun. So overall, I think the Cartographica Rogue Trader Squad is an interesting unit. I don't know how competitive it's going to be. I think it might be interesting for those factions that need a cheap action monkey, someone who can go around raising banners for a very, very low cost, and that is a character so can't be picked up whilst doing that. Maybe they'll have some play there. What I actually think is an interesting twist for this unit, though, is to run it as a budget Eversort assassin. If you're the kind of person that likes running assassins anyway, this squad might be for you. You see, the Eversort assassin has loads of great abilities, but one of his main ones is he generates more attacks the more that he kills. But the thing is, he has to make those kills, and so he might not generate a load of attacks if you have a bit of a whiffer. The thing is, with the Cartographica Rogue Trader, if you combine that with the Death Cult Executioner, you're getting 11 attacks straight off the bat, and a lot of those are hitting on 2+ and 3+. They've got a decent chance of hitting. They're an okay strength as well, being strength 4 when you take into account the war gear. So overall, I actually think that it's pretty good as an Investor Assassin budget option that is good at clearing out chaff units. Now moving on, let's take a look at the Voidsmen at Arms. Now these guys have got some really cool models, and a big part of that is going to be the fact that you can take a dog with this squad. That's right. Do I even need to tell you what the stats are? You don't care, do you? You've just heard that you can take a Guardsman squad that has a pet dog, and that's all you're interested in. You know what? If you want to get some of these guys, there's an affiliate link down in the description below, guys. Go to Element Games, get them for some price off, support the channel, you know, all that good stuff. I don't need to go over the stats. It's a Guardsman squad with a dog. What am I talking about? Yeah, just go and buy them, guys. Okay, joking aside. Okay. These guys actually do have some pretty interesting applications in the game. I don't think they're overly good for Imperial Guard armies because they already have plenty of cheap action monkeys. But for other armies, other Imperial armies, these guys are a great way of getting some cheap action monkeys into your army. So taking a look at the loadout for the squad, you can get between 4 and 8 Voidsmen, essentially Guardsmen. You get 1 Void Master, you must take him, and you can take 0 to 1 Canid. It says the dog is optional, but I think we all know the dog isn't really optional, guys. So minimum squad size is 5 and maximum squad size is 10. Now, the Voidsmen have pretty Guardsman-like stats, okay? Little bit better, though. They've got movement 6, weapon skill, bliss skill 4, plus strength 3, toughness 3, wounds 1, attack 1, leadership 6. That's all very Guardsman, but interestingly, they do get a 4+ save, like a Scion. Nice. The Void Master has pretty much the same stats, except for he has an extra attack and extra leadership, but he does have a 4+ save. And the Canid actually has an 8-inch move. You're probably rarely going to use that 8-inch move, but if the dog is the last model alive, and let's be honest, guys, knowing you, you're going to remove the dog last, aren't you? The dog, all the guys are going to die, but the dog's going to be running around having a great time. Now, if you actually have the dog running around and you can take advantage of that 8-inch move, that's pretty cool. Now, it does have a weapon skill of 3+, so this dog is pretty good at biting people, but it doesn't have any ballistic skill because it doesn't come with a gun. It is strength 4, so it's a pretty strong dog as well, but it is only toughness 3. It does only have 1 wound. It has 3 attacks. It's got more attacks than the squad sergeant. It's got a leadership 6, and amazingly, this dog must be wearing some pretty good doggy coats because it's got a 4+ armor save. Now, in terms of war gear, each Voidsman comes with a las gun and a las pistol. That's pretty cool. Something that Guard players have been shouting out for a long time is that Guardsmen should get las pistols as standard. If you've got people like Genestealer cultists who are running around with sidearms as standard, well, you can't really have the main force of the Guard not getting a las pistol as well. So it's cool that they come with both las guns and las pistols. You're probably rarely going to use that las pistol. I mean, it's if you're in combat, you might be able to shoot someone in the face. The las pistol, overall, you're probably not going to use it, but it's a nice touch, it's a nice nod that GW have given to the squad. The Void Master is equipped with an Artificer shotgun and a las pistol, which is pretty cool. Now, the Artificer shotgun is range 18, assault 2, strength 4, AP nothing, but damage 2. I quite like the fact that it's damage 2. If you manage to get a shot through, you're going to blow the face off a Primaris Marine, which is pretty cool. Now, the las gun and las pistols are fairly standard affair. The las gun's got a 24-inch range, rapid fire 1, strength 3, AP dash, damage 1. The las pistol, 12-inch range, pistol 1, strength 3, AP 0, damage 1. So, there you go. Nothing too special about those. To be honest, the las guns and las pistols are pretty weak. When you take them in Imperial Guard armies, you can start leveraging things like first rank fire, second rank fire. You'll get access to reroll 1s to hit from various sources, and of course you've got Hammer of the Emperor. Voidsmen at Arms get none of those good abilities, which means even if you do use the Captain on Deck ability from your Rogue Trader, hitting with a bunch of las guns on Bliss Skill 3+ really isn't a big deal. So you're not taking these guys for the las guns, las pistols. You're really taking them for action monkeys and some of the other weapons that they get access to. And the main weapon that you really want to take with this unit is the Voidsman Rotator Cannon. You see, for every 5 models in this unit, 1 Voidsman model is equipped with a las pistol and a Voidsman Rotator Cannon. So you've got to take one in a 5-man squad, and you can take 2 in a 10-man squad. And don't forget, like, these guys are 10 points per model all in. You don't have to pay more for the Voidsmen rotator cannon. So if you took a 10-man squad, yeah, it's going to hold you back about 100 points, but you're going to get 2 of these rotator cannons, and they're pretty decent. They're 24-inch range, they're heavy 4, they're strength 6, they're AP -1, and they're damage 1. That strength 6 is actually quite nice. It means that even into like the squats, which have got +1 toughness, or into marines, you're going to be wounding them on 3s. It's actually quite a nice weapon. Is it a fantastic weapon system? No, but it is probably the main reason you're going to want to take Voidsmen at Arms. If you're going to take more of these things, you're going to take like an army of them, then you really want to be taking those Voidsmen rotator cannons. They're actually a pretty decent weapon system and the main source of firepower for this squad. So the abilities for this squad are kind of interesting. You've got Agents of Imperium, just like the Rogue Trader, and you've got the Masters of Close Confines. Each time a model in this unit makes a ranged attack that targets a unit within 12 inches, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores 1 additional hit. That's okay, but it's not as good as Hammer of the Emperor. You've also got shipborne personnel. If your army is Battleforged, this unit cannot be used as a compulsory selection in a detachment, e.g. as the only troops unit in a patrol detachment, unless that detachment is a Navis Imperialis detachment. Now the thing is, I don't think that this shipboard personnel thing really works, because, okay, I get it, they can't be a compulsory selection, but from what I can tell, you can't take a Navis Imperialis detachment, because if you go back and look at the Rogue Trader, the Master and Commander ability says if your army is Battleforged. It doesn't have any exception for Navis Imperialis, which means you can never take a Rogue Trader as a compulsory HQ choice, and therefore you don't have an HQ choice that you can put into one of your detachments to make it Battleforged. I mean, think about it. If you always need an HQ choice no matter what detachment you take. Yeah, you might only need one, but you always need one. So that means that you can never take a Navis Imperialis detachment, which means that shipboard personnel means that these guys are never going to be a compulsory selection in a detachment. Yeah, it just doesn't feel like it works to me. So realistically, what is going to be the battlefield role of these Voidsmen? Well, to me, I think they're going to be really useful for those Imperial armies that don't have access to cheap action monkeys or chaff. I mean, I'm looking at people like Adeptus Custodes who really don't want to be using their big Custodes chonky boys to be raising banners or anything like that. They want to be having cheap infantry that can do that for them. Now, they could take Sister Silence, but quite frankly, Sister Silence costs more than these guys, and when you're taking a competitive army, you want to squeeze every single point. A secondary battlefield role I could see these guys doing is a little bit of chaff clearance with those rotator cannons, but realistically, to make those rotator cannons work, you need to take a 10-man squad, which means you're taking a 100-point unit, and at that point, I think there probably are options out there for those more elite Imperial armies to get 100 points worth of chaff clearance, but it's kind of like a secondary choice. Another way you could use them is a bit of a speed bump. You know, they are cheap ways of just throwing out screens at the enemy. I mean, if you're thinking about maybe some squat berserkers or some other kind of fast assault unit coming and getting you, and you don't want them to get the jump on your expensive like Custodes bikes or Custodes infantry, well, you could use these guys to bubble wrap you. You could use them as a bit of a speed bump. It's not a great use of them, and there are other factions which can do chaff better. But at the end of the day, if you're a faction that doesn't have access to any chaff or very little chaff, this is where you want to go. This is your chaff, okay? So it's kind of cool, and I think those are realistically the 2 or 3 battlefield roles you're going to find these Voidsmen fulfilling. But of course, as I said earlier, the main reason you're going to take these guys is honestly because of the dog, right? Let's be honest, there's no point in me talking about competitive battlefield roles with these guys. You want to take them because they get access to a goddamn cannon, and that is just flipping awesome. But that's all we've got time for today. Overall, I think the Cartographica Rogue Trader and Voidsmen at Arms are 2 pretty cool units. I think they have some play. They're not totally useless, but I don't think they're going to be top tier competitive for a lot of armies. But at the end of the day, they are pretty cool and very flavorful. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in that comment section below. Is there anything that I've missed? Any tricks that I've not spotted here? Let me know down in the comment section. If you've enjoyed today's video, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a like, and if you want to see more content like this, including my upcoming Breacher review video, then subscribe to the channel to never miss an episode. If you really enjoyed today's content, you want to see me make more videos like this, then please consider becoming a channel member or Patreon supporter. It is thanks to the very generous support of my channel members and of my patrons that I'm able to do Mordian Glory full time, and one of the benefits of doing that is I'm able to get these unit review videos videos out as quickly as possible. And I just want to take a moment now to do a shout out to the latest channel members. So a big thank you for Dakota, Stephen Payne, Vic Dick Google, J.A. Burnside, Simon Harris, Jonathan Engel and James Bull. Thank you guys for doing your part. I also want to mention my latest Patreon supporters. A big thank you to Moon Prune, 700th Black Templar, Waiting for Something to Happen, Nick Hooper, Leo King Art and Alex Hines. Thank you guys, I really appreciate your Patreon support. Now, last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreon supporters. A huge thank you and a big 07 to Navy Veteran, Philip French, Ross Miller, Techqual, Alex Dengal, John Stubbs, Nicholas Walsh, Swordfish Trombone, Diesel Fox, Tom Sutton and of course Sly Varney. Thank you guys for being War Masters and of course being Mega Bosses. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.